Hi there, Brett here. Welcome back to Tabletop Sagas. And as you can see here in front of you, it is a Napoleonics week here. So let's dive right in and look at what I've been working on. So in front of you here, I have got the final bits of my initial starter plan for this army. This is going to be putting me up to 2 cavalry units, an artillery battery, and command enough for a full game of Black Powder at least, and also a game of LaSalle. So the 2 systems that I've mentioned previously that I'm looking at playing for Napoleonics. So I think this is a good place to take stock of the British, and there are a few little things that I still want, but we'll get to that later. For now, let's look at each one of these in a little bit more detail. Well, to kick things off, we've got the Light Dragoons here. This is my second unit of Light Dragoons, and specifically this is the 16th Regiment, the Queen's Own Regiment. And they are looking as great as ever in their fine blue. That really has been a nice theme for this round of painting, and it has been a nice change of pace from all the red. But then, as you will see later, I've still spattered in a little bit of red anyway. And these guys, they are very much painted in the exact same way as my previous ones. So I've used a lot of contrast paints for the horses. I really do find that it is the best way to get horses done at this kind of scale and really doesn't require any highlighting. I've used Vallejo's flat blue for any of the blue on the tunics, or did I use royal blue? It was flat blue or royal blue. I think now that I'm thinking about it, it may be royal blue, but it doesn't really matter too much. It's a nice rich mid-colour blue. And then the whites, well, they were already done because I prime all of my models in this in white. And then just using some scarlet to round things off for all of the facings. And then your various metals and your brasses, silvers, things like that to complete everything, and some black for the shakos and the boots. You know, your standard sort of other colours. Again, for these, I have also done a full command. Again, I still doubt that the certainly Light Dragoons would have fought in this manner with an actual banner in things. I have also swapped things around a little bit and put the banner in the front this time. That was mainly because I am a little bit concerned as to how big the banners are going to be. The last thing I want is the banner poking off the end of the base and potentially getting damaged. So I decided to move them to the front just to protect them all. Admittedly, it's a small, probably 1 centimetre piece of paper. It probably doesn't matter, but it makes me feel better anyway. So that's the second Light Dragoons. I did consider going heavy, but I think that for the minute, because I want to really get the feel for the really distinct different roles of different types of units in the rule sets I'm going to use, I want to stick to doing 2 units of Light Dragoons. And my next expansion, that's where I will start to look at maybe some heavy Dragoons, or I think was there another division, there was Hussars as well I think they used. But anyway, that's in the future. But for now, I've got Light, and I'm happy with my choice. And moving swiftly on, coming around now, we have got a artillery battery. This is the Royal Foot Artillery. I am planning at least to run it as. That's certainly how I've painted it. And although I think that, to be honest, the foot and the horse artillery did wear very similar uniforms from what I've seen, certainly at this 10mm scale, not something you're going to really notice any differences of, or any major differences at least. The only thing is how I'm going to limber them, and that is something that you will note I haven't done as yet. But before we get to that, here at the base, I've tried to do this as a little bit of a more diorama sort of base. So, you know, we've got the guys at the back with the ramrods and things waiting to be called forward. You've got the guy at the front pointing out targets, and everybody basically stood around. The idea here was hopefully them to be sort of sighting things and getting ready to aim and all of that sort of stuff before they actually get round to the firing. That's what I've tried to do, and you know, that is the good thing about having these 50mm by 50mm bases and doing these 2 guns. You can play with a little bit of a diorama sort of look for these, which is quite nice and quite a little bit of a change of pace, to be honest, than the lines of infantry and cavalry. They are a lot more regimented in how I've arranged the bases, and these gave me a little bit of an opportunity to be a little bit more creative. Something I did mention there a little bit ago as well is limbers. So for black powder, limbers don't really seem to be all that necessary. They're a nice to have, but they're not a mandatory must have. Whereas having spent a little bit of time now reading through LaSalle, that one is a little bit more difficult. Because I do think they actually really are necessary for LaSalle if you have any intention of moving them. And I don't have any clear plan of what I'm going to do for limbers. These miniatures that I've been painting up, they are all Turner miniatures, as I mentioned before. Again, link down in the description. Really good guy, sculpting some really nice stuff at this scale, and the fact that all of this is supportless is absolutely amazing. But he doesn't really seem to have any clear, explicit Napoleonic British limbers. I'm, somebody coming in here who doesn't know a massive amount about Napoleonics, and so I'm struggling a little bit to figure out exactly what should I get and how should I represent them as limbers. What I do understand is that they basically hoisted the cannons onto the back of a contraption, or connected to like a contraption that was pulled along by horses, and then you had the guys that marched along beside or behind the cannon. And so I can think of maybe how I might represent that, but we don't really seem to have any marching artillery guys to be able to represent that, and I also don't seem to have any limbers that these could be connected to. I'm not 100% too sure what the plan is. If anybody has any ideas, or maybe even better, has actually worked with some of these miniatures before, do feel free, let me know down in the comments. If you can clarify it, that would be amazing. The other option is as well to look at something like Pendragon Miniatures, who I do know sell limbers and all of that, the nitty gritty, the sort of the peripheral things, but they are more explicit about here is a limber for the British in 1815, which is great. So I could go that route as well, and I am tempted to go that route because for me, they were a hometown, I guess you would say, sort of company. I do really like them, and I do have a lot of their miniatures already, so being able to see what their Napoleonic offerings are like, that would also be a great option. But again, that's for in the future. I'm happy with my foot artillery for now, and I am enjoying getting them on the table, although I maybe will make sure that they don't move an awful lot. And of course, to command our force, we are going to need some generals, some colonels, and your command and control elements. And so here is 3 bases that I have got painted up. That's 2 bases who are intended to be your smaller generals, and then your more army general or corps general is this guy here. One thing I have tried to do with this, I am intending to, as somebody may have noticed from the regiments that I've chosen, base this on, I believe it is the 2nd Corps for Wellington's army. And so I have actually, I picked these up, I have actually named these guys. So the main guy here is Lieutenant General Sir Charles Alten. Now he didn't lead 2nd Corps, that was the William Orange, but he did lead, I want to say, was it the 2nd Division? If you go back, you have a look at my King's German Legion stuff, and also my standard British Line Infantry Redcoat, you will probably from that have a look at the Waterloo Order of Battle, and you'd be able to correct me if I am wrong. Like I say, I do think it is 2nd Corps, 2nd Division, or 2nd and 3rd Division, or something like that is what I've decided to do, at least for the minute. So we've also got Colonel Christopher von Ompteda. I do apologise, I'm going to butcher some of these names because they are Belgian. And then Major General Colin Halkett as well. See if I can actually get that. Oh, there we go, into focus. And so I've tried to do these a little bit different, and similar thing with the artillery. I have tried to do these as a little bit more of a diorama style base. So our main general guy, we've got an honour guard behind him, and we have a colonel model from Turner Miniatures by his side advising him, and the two are in theory discussing things. The second general, or the colonel, on a horse that I decided to not put with anybody. I've just put him looking off into the distance and all that. And then I have got the guy on foot with a couple of honor guard as well, just to fill up that base a little bit more, because one guy on the 25mm base at 10mm scale does not look particularly interesting. And as well, when I decided which to do for which, I did actually look at all three of these guys, look at their age, and decide that whoever was the youngest one, which is Major General Colin here, I just did decide, you know what, he can be the one that walks. And here it all is, all in its glory. And this, I've got to admit, is the first time that I've actually seen it all ranked up, all in one place. And you know what? It's pretty impressive, actually. I'm quite happy with it. So what have we got here? Well, we've got 4 battalions from 1 division here, 4 battalions here, which is the King's German Legion, and then we've got our 2 regiment strong cavalry brigade. We've got our foot artillery, which is going to be just probably floating, or will support one of the foot line infantry guys. We've got 2 smaller commands who probably go, you know, one with the other, and then your main commander. At least that's how I'd probably play it with Black Powder. There is still a few little things that I could do to do a little bit better with this. For one thing, I could certainly improve is I could do the flags on everything except for the light infantry, which don't need it, or the rifles, depending on what you want to call them. And also as well, I need to do, like I mentioned earlier on, the limbers. And for LaSalle, I would like to do a dedicated stand for the supplies or the baggage train, the camp, your kind of home base marker that you need to have for that game. I can use one of the other command bases for that for the time being, because for LaSalle, again, you do only need 1 command base to represent your overall general. But we'll see. I still want to do another base for that. We'll see exactly where I go with that. So what's the plan from here, though? Well, obviously the British plan would be to basically do this, but do it again and double the size, because this is a force that I think that 1 person could play and would have good fun, but I don't think you could probably play with 2 people with this size force. But before I do that, I of course need somebody to play against. And so that's where the insidious French will be coming in. That's right, I will next be painting up a load of the Napoleons, volunteers and veterans of the 100-Day campaign coming back for one last roll of the dice, one last glory. I've got to admit, looking at all of this and being English myself, I don't really particularly want to ever have to play the French. I will if my opponent wants to play the British, of course, but yeah, I definitely feel more of an affinity for this army at the moment. Now, of course, once I've sat and spent 2 months painting together a lot of French, I may feel slightly different, but we'll see when it gets to that. So that is the plan for the next video in this series, is to start looking at those French. If you do want to see that, do of course be sure hit the subscribe button down below. If you want to see any of the other regular projects that I am working on as well, the best way to do it is get those notifications and everything. While you're down there as well, you do want to leave a comment, a like, that sort of stuff. I know it's annoying to hear people say, but that engagement really does help the channel. And we have stalled a little bit at the minute, and I need to shake things up, but your help as well would be massively appreciated. But anyway, that's all the YouTube stuff out the way. So thank you very much for coming along with me for these first 3 videos. We're here, we're at a big milestone for this, and I hope you come along for the rest of it. As always, I'm Brett here at Tabletop Sagas, and I'll see you in the next video.